Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as I talk about overwintering plants. So let's go. This is the time of year when I'm super busy in my garden. I'm basically getting ready for the winter months. I've already made a bunch of videos showing you my process for overwintering lots of different corms, tubers, bulbs, and then even tender plants. Recently, I made a video about how to overwinter perennials if you don't have time to get them in the ground. I wasn't planning on making a video again quite yet, but I've gotten a lot of questions lately, and I wanted to chat with you a little bit about some of the common questions I've been getting in case this might help you out. This structure right here is not attached to my house. This is what I refer to as my barn. This is unheated, and this time of year, which is the end of October, I'm okay leaving plants in this structure to protect them overnight. In fact, last night it got down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit. It was super cold. And for that reason, I rolled in a bunch of my plants. And I say I rolled them in because they're on this basically what I call rolling cart. It's something that my husband put together just using a bunch of material that we had. And it works out really well in the springtime for hardening off plants, but it also works out really well in the wintertime for basically protecting plants. And I wanted to show you that for right now, I've been able to keep these plants inside of my unheated barn. They are fine for the time being, but once the temperatures get really cold, these plants cannot be in that barn because they will die in that barn. So what will end up happening is I will eventually, when the time is right, move this rolling cart into my garage. Now, my garage is attached to my house, and in the coldest parts of the winter months, my garage drops down to about 40 degrees Fahrenheit. And the reason it doesn't get much colder than that is because it has 4 walls, and of the 4 walls, 2 of them are attached to a room in my house. And in fact, even the roof above the garage is where we have a bedroom. So it's getting a lot of ambient heat from many of the walls in there. I am planning on eventually going through a bunch of the plants that I have on my cart and talking through them, but I've already again made many videos going over a lot of these plants. I will say when it comes to the mums, for where I live, I cannot put these mums in the ground right now. Where you live, you might still have time in October or even November. Your mums might even stay all winter long in their pot and come back fine for you. For me, Zone 5B, New Hampshire, my winters get to negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Mums take a long time for their roots to establish. So these mums will be staying on this rolling cart and they will basically overwinter in their pots, even though they are a perennial in my zone. Down in the bottom of the rolling cart, I have some perennials that I need to deal with. So this is lamium or dead nettle, and this is creeping Jenny. These are 2 perennials that are definitely hardy in my zone. What I plan on doing is potting them up, and then I'm going to heal them into the ground. I don't want to deal with overwintering these in my garage. I want to limit what I have to overwinter in my garage because it's a lot of work, to be honest with you. In fact, I have many plants. These are all perennials that I need to deal with. As many of you know, I have a backyard plant nursery. So when it comes to perennials, a lot of questions that I'm getting lately are, what should I do with them? It's getting late in the season. Maybe you're like me, you live in zone 5 or zone 6. For my zone where I live right now, zone 5, what I'm planning to do with all these potted perennials is I'm going to be healing them into the ground. And what that means is I'm going to be sinking this pot down to soil level. So the only thing that's going to be above soil level is the rim of the pot and the top of the pot. So if you are similar to me and you have perennials that you bought on the clearance rack, and where you live, it's getting a little too late to be putting plants in the ground, I suggest doing the same thing, healing the pots into the ground. You really don't want to be disturbing their roots too much at this time of year. But where you live, you might live in a much warmer climate, and your ground might never freeze, or it freezes very late in the season. Our ground will be freezing within the next month. So it is too late for me to really be dividing plants this time of year. And I don't even want to be messing with their roots. I just want to take potted plants, even if I find plants on the clearance rack, and I just want to be getting them healed in the ground so I can protect those roots. So I have these raised beds and all the plants are tucked in for the winter. They're in their pots, but they are basically healed into the soil, which means I dug a trench and I basically planted each of these pots in here. And what this is doing in essence is it's protecting the roots of the plant. The roots are not exposed, and that's very important with the temperatures that we get here in New Hampshire. This is where my plant nursery is, and in fact, here are some more perennials that came out of some container pots of mine. Some lamium as well as creeping jenny, but then also some perennials that I just potted up for sale for part of my plant nursery. I have some oxeye daisy, and I also have some sea holly. And they are down here because I still have a lot of work to do in my plant nursery. I need to come in here and heal in more plants. You may not have a big area like this plant nursery, but you may have an area in your yard, like a vegetable garden, or even in your flower bed, where if you want to just protect the roots of your plant so they're not exposed during your very cold winters, you can also do the same thing. You can take a potted perennial and just put it in the ground like this, and then you're backfilling all around the pot, so you're protecting the roots of the plant. Someone asked me recently about some lavender that they started from seed. They wanted to know if they should get it in the ground. If you live in a much warmer climate, then it's actually preferred that you get lavender in the ground during the fall time. But where I live, in my climate, it's too late. I should have planted this during the spring or early summer months. Unfortunately, at this point, I'm going to have to overwinter these plants in my garage. Could they survive if I heal their pots into the ground? Possibly, but I don't want to chance it. You know how hard it is to grow lavender from seed. It's not worth losing them. So going back to the rolling cart, you'll notice that the cart is outside. It's not tucked away for the winter. We still have many days that are going to be 50 degrees Fahrenheit or even 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Personally, I feel these plants are fine to bring out during the daytime. But when the temperatures dip at nighttime, I bring all these plants back inside. So if I were you, if you're trying to overwinter plants, use your best judgment. We have a very long winter ahead of us in New Hampshire. These plants are not quite ready to go dormant yet. I want them to get as much sun as they can. And once those daytime temperatures start dropping below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, at that point, I'll feel more comfortable leaving these plants in the garage for the remainder of the winter. I'm definitely not an expert when it comes to overwintering plants, but I try my best to share with you my own personal experiences, what has worked and what hasn't worked. I wanted to make this video just to show you this rolling cart and how I'm using it to bring out all my plants on these warmish days. And when I say warmish, above 40 degrees Fahrenheit, but then those cool nights when it dips down in the 30-degree Fahrenheit range, this cart goes back into my unheated barn. But once those daytime temperatures start to be 40 degrees Fahrenheit and those nighttime temperatures are always freezing, at that point, I'm giving up rolling this out. This is going to get moved into my unheated garage, and it's going to stay there all winter long. And the unheated garage, again, does not dip below 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I like to keep a thermometer in my garage just to monitor it, because you never know, in case it does go below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe I need to put a space heater in there just for a night or two. Another thing I've done in the past is taken a glass of water and I've put it right next to my plants. And that way I can watch the glass of water. And if I see little icicles forming on it, then I know it's getting a little too cold in there. My unheated garage does have a few windows in there, but these plants are dormant. If the garage was completely dark, these plants that I have on here would be fine. A majority of my hardy perennials get healed out inside my landscape. I do not want to bring a whole bunch of perennials into my garage. But in your situation, depending on what your perennial is, and maybe you don't have space in your landscape to heal in plants, then you may have to bring them into a place like an unheated garage or a basement or a greenhouse. Every situation is different depending on our climate, the plant that we're trying to overwinter, and the space that we're trying to overwinter it in. So definitely do your research. I'll be sure to give you updates on any of the plants that I'm overwintering this year, checking on them on a monthly basis, what I'm looking for, how I'm watering them. Keep those questions coming. I'll help you the best that I can. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.